Oh, hey, Fierce Factor. Okay, so I am so thrilled to share this absolutely badass episode with you today. So I had the honor of interviewing one of the aesthetic industry's absolute favorite nurse injectors, Traci Andreason. And let me tell you, I picked her brain, y'all, on all of the hot questions from growing an IG following into the tens of thousands to converting social media leads to patients to staying authentic and true to herself when her industry is gripping her to look and act like everyone else on the market. And finally, priceless advice on how to leverage her unique knowledge and expertise and how you can learn from her to monetize online programs and products in your business. Traci is an RN and an advanced nurse injector with a background in facial aesthetics. She is currently studying for her nurse practitioner degree while she treats patients at Ruma Aesthetics in Utah. And let me tell you, Traci is a queen, man. She has authored several books and is on a mission to enhance the availability of high quality education for nurse injectors. You might know her famous coloring book and all of the other things that she has out there by Face by Traci. And I was so looking forward to this interview because Traci's just someone who I have so much respect for. She's a wife, a mom, a business partner, a student, and she truly values authenticity in relationships and really credits that as a key component of really her growth and her success. And in this episode, she gives some raw advice about the balance between acquiring new leads and actually attracting the right people into your business who will genuinely treasure your value. I hope you find this episode as inspiring as I did. Without further ado, here's my chat with Traci Andreason. Hi there, welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast. I'm your host, Kaylee Lindholm. And I think it's time for us women to shift the conversation in business and step into our feminine leadership to do the most iconic work the aesthetic industry has ever seen. Each week, I'll be bringing a powerful dose of strategy, sarcasm, solutions, and sass that will rev up your creativity and ignite your brilliance as you link arms with me along our shared path of personal and professional growth in 20 minutes or less. Let's go. Hello. Welcome to the Fierce Factor podcast, everybody. And oh my gosh, I'm so pumped to have this special guest who I've been stalking on Instagram for over a year probably. And we have been like virtual friends and finally get to bring her on to share her incredible wisdom, expertise, and just badassness. Welcome, Traci Andreason, to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited. So where are you joining us from today?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
I will happen to be there next week, just by chance.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, you'll love it.
I'm super excited. I mean, I've been in the first time I was there was in the summer and I fell in love with it in the summer. And then I saw it the winter. It was beautiful too. So I think I just can't beat.
Oh yeah. We have good seasons here for sure.
Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining. Okay. So Traci, tell us a little bit about you and your background. I gave a bio of you, but I want to catch the listeners up so they know a little bit more about what you do.
So, I'm a nurse injector first and foremost. That's what I do full time. And then I also own a business providing educational resources and products to other medical professionals and injectors. So I also offer trainings. So I'm kind of dedicated to the aesthetic industry in that way. And I'm a mama and I'm married and happy and living in Salt Lake, enjoying the outdoors. So
yes, so you're doing it all. So,
yes, also in grad school,
yes,
like chaos apparently.
I know. I feel like that we've conditioned ourselves to run at hyper speed. And then when things slow down, you're like, well, there's a pandemic. I can't really do that. So let me do 15 other things.
Yes. Oh, my plate. One thing got pulled off my plate. Let me add 3 more.
All right. We're going to have stress withdrawals or something. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
So I'm so excited. I really wanted you to come on to the podcast today because You've done something really, I think, special in our industry, and something that a lot of clients that I have think about doing, or maybe they have this idea that maybe sometime down the road they find another way to leverage and scale by monetizing their knowledge, where you have really done that. Like, you've looked at your passion and your skills and what you're great at and said, where is there an opportunity in the market for me to really capitalize on serving more people, improving the industry, and also making money and supporting, my family and my endeavors along the way. So
right.
First, I want to dive into just you as a nurse injector. And I know you're working toward your nurse practitioner as well. And we see you on Instagram. You're one of the TikTok dancing queens. So anybody who doesn't know Traci, you have to check out her move. Do you have dance experience?
Oh my gosh. No, I really, not much. I mean, I danced for fun. I did do cheer for a couple years in high school, but that honestly really didn't serve me well because I was extremely stiff. If you look at my first TikTok versus where I am now, it's like proof that you can learn anything at any age.
I love that. I do remember one of the first ones you did. And, it's one of those like pattern interruptions when you see someone dancing and, you're scrolling through your Instagram feed and you're like, oh, I'm going to check that out. This is actually,
yeah.
And I remember you're so adorable. And now I look and I'm like, shoot, I barely do. I love to dance, but like, I can't even begin to make a TikTok video. And you're straight, like get trending, so.
You just wait until you should just start, because it took me like 2 weeks to learn my very first TikTok and I was sweating. I mean, it was my workout every night for 2 weeks. And the girls that I danced with, Shelby and Sav and Sid, they all have dance experience. So they pick up choreography in 2 seconds. So I'm like, okay, pick the TikTok you want. Give me 2 weeks to learn it. And then I'll be the stiffest dancer out there. And now, I mean, I could pick up choreography in like 30 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on it. TikTok's kind of on repeat if you look, It's a lot of the same moves, different songs. So anyways, it gets better. Yeah. You could totally do it, Kaylee.
Yeah, no. Okay. I know. I'm going to make that a challenge.
Do it. Yes.
Yes. I always try to take away like from my guests, like, okay, what can I do that actually push myself out of my comfort zone? So I challenge accepted. But I do bring that up because look, let's be real. We're in a highly saturated market. You have a coveted job. Literally every nurse I know is like, oh, someday I would love to inject, or even the nurse injectors I know are always looking to engineer their celebrity or become more exposed, better at their craft, and also get more visibility in the marketplace because it's just one of those great jobs that,
Yes.
nurses really enjoy and people want to get into this space. Obviously, aesthetics is amazing, but
yes.
I do want to talk about that because not to pigeonhole us into a TikTok conversation or anything about social media. But the reality is there's what some would say a low barrier to entry into our space. Like, oh, I want to inject, call Allergan, get some training, right? And you've kind of flipped that concept around and said, this needs to be done the right way. And I want to create tools and trainings and resources to help injectors learn how to do it right and become the best at their craft. But first, you have to put yourself in a position to do that. You have to stand out and you have to be unique. And this is a saturated market. So, what does it really take as a nurse injector to credential yourself, be unique, and stand out against the sea of competition?
Right. Well, it's especially saturated here in Utah. It's a huge aesthetic market in Utah. I think in any industry, though, it's super important if you want to be successful to be yourself. It's very tempting to see what other successful people are doing and you want to mimic that. But if you're not standing out and doing your own thing, I mean, you look like everybody else, right?
Right.
And we all have something unique and something different to offer to whatever industry we're in. And speaking to aesthetics specifically, I think where I kind of initially stood out and found that I was a little bit different was that I really liked natural look, general anti-aging. I don't like big augmentation, like the big giant lips or maleficent cheeks. It's not really my jam. And I noticed that a lot of what gets a lot of, I guess, fame, maybe is a good word for it, is that, right? It's the augmented look. It's what people who are scared of injectables see. So I did start building kind of on that, really standing behind my philosophy that the best injectables are undetectable. I don't want my patients to go out and have people assume they have filler. I want them to just look so good that people want to know what their secret is. So part of promoting that is getting a really good portfolio together, good before and after photos, really honest photography. Very easy in social media, especially to to put together something that's a little dishonest. So my goal was to make sure like even the most smart consumer could look at my before and afters and know that I could deliver on what I said I could. And the other is just really sticking behind your aesthetic philosophy so you attract the right type of client and the respect from your peers. If you're trying to just fit in with everyone else, you just kind of fall into this cluster and group of people who are doing the same thing.
Right.
But if this is interesting, she's not doing exactly what everyone else is doing. And we all have something we can gain from each other. So I think what I'm attracted to, what I'm looking for colleagues and peers to network with is what can I learn from you and what's different and what are you doing to shake it up and kind of make their mark on the industry?
And how important do you think the marketing side is to the whole equation?
For me personally, it's huge. Huge. I mean, Instagram is a love-hate relationship, right? Anybody who's using that for marketing could agree with that. Even like we were talking about with TikTok, that it is fun and that's the primary reason I do it. But I share it to Instagram for fun and to add a little bit of spice to my page. But the reality is if your page isn't entertaining, nobody wants to come look at your page. So when you're running a special, no one's going to see it because everyone's seen your before and afters a million times and everyone's seen your selfies and your talk about skincare, right? So the marketing is huge. It's a full-time job to make sure that you're, growing and reaching the right people. Like popularity is one thing on social media, but having actual business coming from it is a whole different realm. So it's huge. And doing it the right way, like we were talking about, you don't want Groupon searchers coming to give you business. You want long-term loyal clients.
Right. I did notice when you started talking about like the kind of vag rejuve stuff,
right.
And, that was something that I felt like I actually sent your Instagram to somebody who had asked me who's doing this exceptionally well, because you seem so authentically, really like the passion and energy you put behind your post show me that you believe in the results. It stood out to me. I mean, and obviously your energy and probably the dancing and all of that too.
Thank you. That is so nice. That's what I'm hoping. I usually do one take for those types of videos because I think I just want to be raw and just explain what I like about it and why I do it and why I think people will benefit from it. I don't want it to be like an infomercial,
Yeah.
And it's certainly, if coming from a consumer standpoint, right? If you're watching somebody, I don't want to hear someone give me the highlight reel of a product. Like, just tell me what it's going to do for me and why I should see you for it. And what you're seeing in reality, like if you're sitting down talking to your girlfriend. So a lot of times I have a one take rule. And if I fumble and post it anyways,
Wow, your one take rule, because then you end up overthinking it, right? Like if you do, you're like, but that, I did that. So that's
and each take gets worse.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's better received, and it's more like you're conversating with a girlfriend rather than watching someone trying to talk you into giving them business, right?
Right.
But that's not really what I want. It's the same thing. Like your ideal client is not somebody who's just coming in once to get your service and leaving. Like I want to build a relationship with people, and I think it starts with marketing.
Yeah. Or is this an element of stuff you teach in your Face by Traci business, or when you're doing consulting, injectable consulting? Do you talk about that side at all?
For sure. Yeah, I do some virtual trainings, and those are a lot of kind of the business side of things like marketing and social media and consultation and connecting with clients. Mm-hmm. I also did one of my books it's an ebook. It's called Growing Your Clientele. It's an injector's guide. And that's specifically dedicated to, networking and social media and just kind of a little quick guide on a little crash course, on the growing your clientele, and not just growing any clientele, growing your ideal clientele.
Right. That's the important part.
That's the key. You don't want to hate your job.
Because I know you have some umpteen-thousand followers on Instagram, but I think that's important. That is a call I get a lot, particularly I will say from solopreneurs or personal brand entrepreneurs asking how to grow their Instagram, or they'll actually like simply reference somebody else. Like, I know I'm as good as her and she has 40,000 followers and I have 2,000. Why?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That it's an important conversation, again, to maybe the love hate and all of that. But like most of those followers are not going to become patients. Like you really, that's an intentional process to convert them into your practice, right?
It totally is. Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. And it's kind of amazing. There are a few people that have come in and sat at my chair. Okay, how'd you hear about us? Instagram. I can't believe how many followers you have. It's pretty unusual for someone to talk like that, right? Maybe 2 or 3 like 20-year-olds have come in specifically for the number of followers. But when you get caught up on that, then you start it's just a comparison game, and you're looking at other people like, she's doing what I'm doing, and why can't I be as popular as, someone who's 100,000 followers? I mean, that's great and all, but that's not really, I think, what drives business. And at the end of the day, that's what it's for. We can't lose sight of get caught up in the popularity game on Instagram.
Exactly. Well, and there are a lot of vanity metrics out there. And I know I've been victim to this, right? Like I want to host a conference and have the room packed. So people walk in and it's like, how many of those people are really going to get the most out of this? And we're going to do a long-term, valuable, lucrative relationship versus bodies, butts and seats. I know.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So same thing with Instagram followers, kind of a good like ego.
Yes. But it feels good. Sure. To get that kind of a following. But ultimately, like do you want to put your work into becoming popular on Instagram, or do you want to put your work into putting someone in the chair who's going to be in your chair for years?
Totally.
In the long run. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's going to be a day, I believe, when Instagram is gone or Facebook is gone and we're switching. And if that's all your business relies on, it's going to hurt when things turn south. So
I
think it's also important to diversify a little bit and not put all your energy there.
Let's talk about that actually, because I know that there's other injectors out there too, and business owners who are like wanting to have their own Face by Traci type of business or have something on the side. I've seen some design like private label skincare, or maybe it is a course, or maybe it's an ebook or something like that, or training, which I love your coloring book, by the way.
Thank you.
I am obsessed with that. I'm like, how can I create a coloring book now?
So fun.
Really cool. Awesome job on that. But, how can you talk about really how you were inspired to start the Face by Traci business? And, what kind of advice would you give to other business owners or other even non-business owners, but like employees of a business who are thinking, I want to be my own, I want to sell myself and my brand because I have a special, unique skill set that I think I could teach other people?
Right. Well, the biggest thing for me is that I am a forever student. I'm constantly learning. I just have a love for learning, which also leads me to have a love for teaching, because every time you teach, you're learning, right? And so as I continued going to trainings and conferences and hearing people speak to things and realizing how impactful that is, like I would go to a conference and you'd go to 3 different classes in a row and hear 3 different philosophies on the same exact technique. And I learned that my philosophy of injectables might speak to somebody more than the person in the room next door. And that's okay. And we all have our own niche, I guess, and what our philosophy and our style is. So once I gained a little bit more of a following and people realized who I was as an injector and wondering like, oh, do you offer any injection training? I'm like, no, I don't. And I thought, why don't I? I love teaching. I am so dedicated to learning. I know that I can provide up-to-date information for people.
And give people what they want, Traci.
Give people what they want. So initially it was just like, you know what? Yeah, a couple of local people who want to learn. Like I don't believe in a scarcity mindset. I think there's plenty to go around for everyone. Like having an abundance mindset, being happy for other people's success and allowing space for myself to grow and succeed too is so important. So I specifically wanted to make sure that I was not feeding into the dog-eat-dog world kind of philosophy of not sharing my knowledge. So I started sharing my knowledge, and I'm just a kind of a neurotic. I didn't want people to come into my trainings and have to go through, 2 hours of didactic on repeat every single time. And I didn't want them to forget the information. I didn't want them to get injecting and not remembering what the dilution is. So I made manuals for all my trainees, and I used those for a year or so without ever offering them to the public. And I started thinking like, wow, there's a lot of people who don't have the opportunity to come train with me in person. I don't really have the time, honestly, to train everybody who's emailing for training. So where is the population that I can serve? What can I do in order to serve that group of people? And that was the scariest leap because, as great as it is to share knowledge, it's also frightening because 1, judgment of your philosophies, your knowledge, your techniques, but 2, the safety aspect of it. I was really concerned about putting information out there that someone could potentially use and cause harm to any other human. It's terrifying. So it took me a while to take the leap, but ultimately, we live in a digital age where people can get information anywhere. YouTube it, Google it. There's articles everywhere. If you want the knowledge, you can go get it. Mm-hmm. And so I thought what I'm doing is a disservice because I have the information in these manuals to give people a safe,
to do it the right way,
access. Yes. And I thought, what am I doing? What am I doing limiting that information to myself and the people who are coming to me in person? So then I decided to develop a brand out of it. So we got, more of like logos and colors and the fun side of it, and then offered them online. And then it just expanded from there. The very first book that I ever made was that training manual. So it's the Toxin Filler Guide.
That's awesome. I'll put the link to Face by Traci in the show notes so that anybody listening can go check it out and get access to all of your really cool tools. You mentioned, which is something that I have to bring up, and I have to tell you, I have had those same feelings around, okay, I know what I know, and I know I can bring my experience to the world and I can share it. But then once you put your knowledge out there, it's like, it's like exposing your baby. Like you're raw, right? It's it truly is a scary feeling that you have to live, you have to sit with. And it doesn't honestly go away. You just kind of have to develop, from my perspective, you have to develop some sort of a mindset around accepting those scary feelings, right? But I want to ask you, because you talk about making that leap, right? Where you kind of called it like transitioning to like getting out there where you felt scared, but you did it anyway. What are some of really the strategies, like how to continue to stay true to yourself, to put stuff out there, to not worry about or listen to the noise of people who may have differing opinions, or the haters who just want to hate ambitious people anyway?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, how do you stop caring about that and continue? Like, what are there certain, like maybe strategies you could tell people to say, look, if you feel scared, here's kind of what I do, or here's the mindset that I carry with me to get me over that hump?
For sure. And this was so tough for me in the beginning. I mean, I literally felt nauseated when I was clicking publish on my website, because I just thought, and I knew, like, going to these conferences, that I disagreed with some of the speakers and their notes, but I'm not a hater, Right. But you think about the people who feel the need to speak their opinion on when they don't agree with somebody. It's just terrifying. And you worry about, like, what's that going to do to my reputation? You can go down this little rabbit hole of self-doubt. And one thing that really helps me, I listen to a lot of podcasts similar to kind of what you have here. I listen to Rachel Hollis a lot and the School of Greatness. And one of my favorite takeaways from Rachel Hollis is that someone else's opinion of you is none of your business. Mm-hmm. And it is so true. It's just like I talked about in the conference, how one room to the next will have differing opinions and techniques. So, okay, maybe 50% of those people in the room agree with me that it maybe wasn't the best. But so I knew when I put it out, there are going to be some people who think that what I put out is not valuable or not right, or that I'm too ambitious. There's this weird stigma about ambition, especially for women. So I definitely struggle with that. But I think the biggest thing is not just being true to yourself. I make sure that I'm honest, always putting my best work out, always standing up for what I believe in, remaining open-minded and open to learning. And then no matter what anybody thinks or says, I can feel good about it. Like, okay, maybe I did do something wrong. If I need to own up to it, then at least I know that I was being honest and I was doing the very best with what I had.
Integrity. Well, and exactly. I think there's a camp of people, which first of all, I agree wholeheartedly with Rachel Hollis, and I repeat that on the regular with my clients who have concerns about how a lot of times, even when we're talking about their team, and I don't know how my employee is going to respond, or they'll react, or they'll feel. And a lot of times you have to just let people have their feelings, and you just kind of have
Exactly.
to. What it is. We're all allowed to think differently. And it's interesting you mentioned, I have those same kind of thought processes around the way that my approach and the way that I teach, which happens to be quite different than typical practice management. I kind of flip it around. I talk a lot about mindset. I think that a lot of what you do stems from who you are as a human and how you develop yourself and your ability
Definitely.
to overcome adversity and things like that, which is very different than people like the tactical things, So it's interesting you mentioned you go into 3 different rooms and 3 different people are teaching the same thing in 3 different ways, right?
Yeah.
But it almost tells me, doesn't the diversity of approach, or as you're saying, be yourself, the authenticity of who you are, in essence, add to the way it encourages and stimulates us to think differently. It challenges us to become better. It makes us all this is really how growth happens, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is so important, because you're exactly right. It allows growth, because if you're open to knowing that you might be wrong, there might be someone that's doing something better, then you allow yourself to be in that space. I actually, with my book specifically, the manual initially went alongside the hands-on training, and I added some stuff to beef it up when I offered it publicly, but I got a little bit of feedback that maybe there wasn't enough detail for someone to truly use the manual. And the first response to something you've put so much time and work into is like, you want to be offended. You want to be like, you have no idea how many hours I put into that and how valuable this information is and how long it took me to learn all of this and put it very concisely for you. You know, you go through this in your mind. And then if you allow yourself to be there, you'll stay there and you won't improve. But if you allow yourself to really hear what other people are saying, listen to the disagreement, understand that criticism is going to come and you can decide to use that to benefit you. I mean, it's perfect. Someone's telling me exactly what I need to do in my business to improve. Thank you. So I added more. I came out with the second edition. Everyone who had toxin filler before, I felt deserved to have a more beefed up version. So everyone got that second edition, and I'll continue coming out with new editions, and everyone's going to get the updated edition because that's what it's all about, right? I want everyone to have the latest, greatest, and the most safe and effective and applicable. You know, it's a perfect, that's what we want. So
I think, Traci, what you're saying right now is absolute treasure, literally, for people, because I think that too often we think about the thing we want to do and we wait until we're like, okay, I have it perfect now, right? And what you're saying is you're going to feel fear. You're going to be scared. You're going to not want to hit that publish button, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But if you are putting yourself out there with integrity and you're doing the best you can and you're doing it to serve other people, then the other people will know, look, I'm constantly learning. My skill sets are going to change. My experience will change. My feedback will change. The world will change. The tactics will change.
Yes.
All of these things will change. There'll be new tools. There'll be new products. There'll be new. And so I'm going to be innovating. So maybe what I say to you right now, you know, this is what we have now, but I'm going to continue to give you the best that I know and bring you the best over time. But you'll never get there if you don't start here, right? Like,
yes. Yeah.
And then you start learning and kind of noodling through all of that and learning from your mistakes and knowing this is where you should focus attention, right? And you don't actually get to that point where you are ready or where you're kind of evolving into something better and greater until you start and kind of like
true.
the beginning, right?
Yes. And which is the very hardest step, is getting started. But what I found very empowering though is once I took that first leap, I'm like, oh my gosh, what I do from here is so much more important than that first step. The first step, you're going out with integrity. I mean, it's scary, but looking back, I'm like, I should have done it so much sooner. But fear of failure and fear of judgment and the vulnerability of it all is just a little bit intimidating. But now I'm on the other side. I'm like, oh my gosh, being in the thick of it and having people actually using the material is so much different than pushing a publish button on a website, you know?
Well, and probably so rewarding for you to know, to actually see the intent of the work that you did come to fruition, where people are actually making impact on lives of other people because of the knowledge that you're giving them.
Yes, it has been so fun. And especially, that's one thing I really love about Instagram. My part of my love-hate relationship is that all the people that have bought these products or using the coloring book and posting and sharing with other people about it is really awesome because, I mean, not only did I want people to really master facial anatomy and have a fun way to do it and provide safe injections, I really wanted to foster an ongoing love for learning because, I mean, medical aesthetics is no different than any other part of medicine. It's constantly changing. There are things we can always be doing better and learning. And so I think that's what makes me most excited. You know, you see, okay, I'm feeding my fire to constantly be learning, but offering educational resources kind of feeds somebody else's fire. And they're able to feed their friend's fire. Like, hey, I got this new thing and I'm excited to learn. And I want to look out more trainings. I didn't know there was all this whole world of information I haven't seen.
Right. And I think too, I would say one thing that I really thought for a long time was, I'm not going to be able to make a big impact. And quite frankly, I still go through this on, the regular basis. I don't have as much volume. And then I'm like, then I have to reel myself back in and say, wait, but if I'm changing one life, then that's changing another one. And then I change, and it's going, it's this kind of like starting somewhere, making it authentic, doing the best that you can, making a true impact, and then seeing that blossom. And I think of my dad's Samoan and we grew up with plumerias. We just love Polynesian everything. And I think of the plumeria plant where the tree blossoms and the branches come out and that flower and that flower and that flower, it just starts with planting the seeds and then, it grows. And so I think what I hear you saying too is that, I have all these Instagram followers. We have a really great business. We, things are wonderful, but you didn't really start with an expectation. You just knew, I want to get my information out. I want to make sure injectors do things the right way. And I want to provide the tools to do that. And then you've watched it blossom.
Exactly. Yeah.
really.
Very organic, very organically. People always ask, like, what are you doing for marketing for your business? I'm like, oh my gosh, I should be doing a lot more, because it's just very.
And that's kind of the cool thing about social media. Like, you have someone sharing their experience with your coloring book on their social media, and someone else sees it. There's no better testimonial than
And I'm so grateful for those. I'm so grateful for that. And it's same thing. Like when you're on one side of thing, you learn so much about being on the other side. So now if I ever have any product, I'm so freely sharing because I realize that the difference it makes on that business. It's been a very good learning experience for me too.
Yeah, that's good. That's awesome. That's good advice for everybody too, to really think about that.
Yeah. Support each other. Yeah.
The energy someone else put into a product or service that you're really enjoying or appreciating. So
exactly. Yeah.
So what's next then? So now, do you have like a next step, a next goal? What are you working on now?
So, I'm constantly trying to think about what the needs are in the aesthetic industry and if I can contribute to that at all. I'm continuing trainings, especially as COVID's kind of like, it's dwindling, I guess. Not really. It's still here very much. But I guess what I'm saying is that the impact on business, I think, is a little bit dwindling. I think people are innovating and learning ways to do it. So I've done a lot more virtual trainings, which has been new since COVID. So streamlining that process, maybe adding some of those features to a website, thinking about maybe a little bit of retail, something that the injector tools, things that I like to keep on hand. And I know other people, it's just like, who's done the research on what's the best little facial massager or, whatever injector tool. Thought about that. I just honestly, the whole purpose of Face by Traci is to continue innovation for the improvement of the aesthetic industry through educational resources and training, So that's kind of the direction I'm moving. It's continuing that and staying on top of everything that's changing.
Yeah, well, that's so appreciated by so many in our industry. And I'm certainly going to tap in and, try to leverage some of your expertise myself and also for some of our clients as well. So I appreciate that. And I do want to ask you before we wrap up, because this is a signature question. And I think it's pretty evident to anybody who's been listening to this podcast that you're a fierce woman and you've got, certainly you're ambitious and driven and willing to take risks and, a lot of qualities that we all aspire to have and are working on, toward in different areas and aspects of our life. But for you personally, what does having the fierce factor mean to you?
That's a good one. By the way, I love that fierce factor. That is such a cool, such a cool word. So, I think honestly, striving to reach your greatest potential, reaching your full potential and whatever that means to you and having the desire to achieve that, constantly working toward that. With enough hard work and dedication, huge changes and improvements can happen. Everyone starts somewhere. You can't really compare your beginning to someone else's end. And just always striving to reach your greatest potential. And that never ends, right? We level up constantly and just continuing that, I think, is what the fierce factor means to me.
Awesome. Well, and you've embodied that. And I think, for me, one of the biggest takeaways from our conversation today is really that you are authentically enough, the person that you are, being true to yourself to get out, go start it, do what fuels you that is going to stimulate success for other people or help and serve other people. And that you can iterate it and build it and develop it to become what it's going to become over time,
Yes, totally.
And it starts with just being you and you're ready to do it.
Yes.
Go.
Take your gifts, take your strengths, work on those and be open to improvement. Yes,
exactly.
Hit the go button. Yes.
I love that. I appreciate that. I think this is just such a special message for everybody. So I so appreciate you being here with us, Traci. Do you have any final thoughts that maybe you want to leave behind for our listeners? And also, can you tell us how we can learn more about you and where we can go to find you?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you having me. Thank you so much. It's been awesome. A final thought, I can't really think of much other than just what your beautiful summary there was at the end, is that be yourself. Don't be afraid to be vulnerable. And, it's in those situations in which we have the best growth and the best potential for reaching our full potential. On social media, it's Face by _Traci. And, on Instagram, TikTok is Face by Traci. But, TikTok might not be a thing, I guess. We'll see. And then website's www.facebytraci.com. And it's Traci with an I. So awesome. If anybody has any questions, there's a link to email me on there, and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. Thank you so much. for your authenticity and for sharing, all this great knowledge with us today on the podcast. It's been such a pleasure having you, Traci.
Thank you so much.
All right, take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of The Fierce Factor. If you enjoyed the show, please make sure you subscribe so you can automatically get new shows every week. I'd also love it if you left us a review. And come join the conversation online. If you're an aesthetic industry owner, operator, or leader, please join my free Facebook group, The Tribe of Fierce Aesthetic Leaders, a community of ambitious, purpose-driven professionals who collaborate and share best practices for growth in business and life. I'm honored you tuned in.